Hi guys, it's Dr. Pam and I'm here with this week's burning question, which happens to be part 3 of our adrenal series. Now, we talked a lot in the first video about a peculiar type of fat deposition on the body of your dog that is more indicative of adrenal dysfunction and what that looks like. In the second video, we talked about how the current testing excludes any type of adrenal function testing. We can only find adrenal disease, which is Cushing's and Addison, in the blood because they're measuring bound inactive hormones, and adrenal dysfunction is measured with active hormone at the tissue level, and the only way to do that is saliva. And though I did bootleg a little bit of that a couple 3 years ago and found some interesting results, it's just not widely available, okay? So today we're going to talk about risk factors, symptoms that you may see, and then what you can do about it. And this is a very important video, so please stay tuned. So the first thing that I want to tell you is that your pet's personality really does play a major role in whether or not to what degree they're going to develop some level of adrenal dysfunction. Because remember what I said last time, it's not that you or your dog is developing adrenal dysfunction. It is to what degree, because we live in the United States and this is the way life is. We are high stress, high social media, in the middle of the phone all the time. That's the kind of type of life that we lead. So the first thing that we talk about is the pet's personality. If you have a kickback dog that doesn't get upset about anything, that all this trauma could be going on in your house, and they just raise their eyebrow, raise their head, smack a little bit, and then go back to sleep, those dogs are going to be less likely to develop severe adrenal dysfunction. Now, they'll probably develop some because of the diets that we have them on presently, but they don't really have the major problems and move more towards the disease states, okay? The second thing is having to do with the household personality. So the household has its own personality. If you're a high stress household, if you have major jobs that are very stressful jobs, that flows down through the family through the kids into the pets as well. And so that's another risk factor involved. And you yourself are going to have to assess that. I can't do that for you. And that's one of the reasons that we really work on the Monday inspiration and all these types of things that ask you to stop and breathe and be, okay? The next thing is age. Aging dogs tend to have a little bit more adrenal dysfunction than young dogs. Well, it makes sense, right? We're burning up their battery over time. And our stress, their stress, we're all burning up the battery, okay? So that's a big deal there. And then if they've ever had steroids before, it takes the adrenal 18 months to recover from a single course of tapering dose. 3-day tapering dose of prednisone. That's twice daily for 3 days, once daily for 3 days, and 1 tablet every other day for 3 treatments. Now, I have to be honest, I don't know if I've ever seen in the last 10 years that level of a dosage anymore. We usually do steroids for 2, 3, 4, 5 times longer than that. So keep that in mind. The more steroids your dog receives, the more at risk they are, okay? And then the final thing that I want to talk to you about has to do with spaying and neutering. Now, I'm not going to get into the goods and the bads and the uglies with respect to spaying and neutering, but I do need to let you know physiologically, when you remove the testicles or the ovaries, it creates a state of what in humans we would call menopause and andropause, and it's immediate. It's immediate, right? And so, who takes up the load? That would be your adrenals. So if you have high risk factors elsewhere, and then you have an early spay and neuter before you really get set, or even after you've gotten set, but you have a high stress level, spay and neuter actually create more stress for the adrenal glands, mainly because their inbox gets a lot more full, and they are foundational in supporting health, as are the gonads. The gonads are foundational in supporting health as well. So that's another risk factor to consider. So the next question is, how do I know? How do I know that they have it? Well, again, it's not that they have it or they don't, it's the degree to which they have it. Because we've fed dogs in a way over the last 50 to 75 years that have promoted less and less adrenal health, okay? The adrenals are more and more taxed. And where you are as a mom, when you have your kiddos, is where the kiddos start. So you see over time, if you're deficient and then you develop deficiency during that generation, it passes forward and down, 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 down. So that's where we are today. That's why I'm saying it's the degree to which you have it. So all of these things occur. So what kinds of symptoms are you going to see in early phases? The hard part is that dogs are not as demonstrative as people. So the early easy types of symptomatology we're going to miss because the dog's always going to, they're so heart open and they're always going to jump in and just show you how much they love you, and no matter where they feel, and you're not going to be able to hear their little words telling you how they feel. So it usually isn't until you get moderate symptoms that you start noticing. And so here are some of the moderate symptoms. Moderate to severe, we talked about the fat deposition that's weird on the body like that. The second thing that you can see is that in the morning their appetite will wane. They don't want to eat as much in the morning, but by the end of the day they're going to eat your couch. They're so hungry. Same thing with activity. In the morning they're not as active. They may have trouble getting out of bed. It may take a little bit later, and it's a difference for you, so you notice it. You notice that they're not getting up with you as they used to, or they're not as energetic. It's kind of like the person who wakes up in the morning and is like, rah, 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 I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to eat anything. By the way, that's my husband. And so, I laugh because I get up in the morning, I'm like, bing, and he's just like, please, just stop. So at any rate, so those types of situations are very characteristic of adrenal dysfunction. And the fat that I was telling you about in humans, it's the tire around the belly that occurs that you can't get rid of no matter how much exercise you do, no how much dieting, because it's not about exercise and diet. Well, it's a little bit about diet, but it's not about the calories of your food. It's about the hormonal response to your food. And so those are some of the symptoms that you see. In blood work, you'll see that the thyroid function starts to decrease a little bit. It starts to wane. So I'm huge in looking at trends of that. There are also other patterns that show up on blood work that make you go, oh, I'm watching my adrenals right now. I'm seeing this, this, and this. So that's a functional blood work analysis type thing that you can do, or that you have your vet do. I'm not sure that tons of vets do that just yet, but it is in the human sphere. So what can you do? The most important factor is nutrition. You can regulate the adrenals so much more quickly with nutrition than anything else. You will still have to do other things, some types of support, but nutrition's a big game changer. It actually regulates the blood sugar. Whenever you eat something that's high in carbohydrate, high processed foods, and high sugar content, it creates a spike in your blood glucose. And then the insulin comes out and drives it all the way down so low that the adrenals have to squeeze and say, and initiate the response where the body takes the glycogen stores out of the liver and converts it to glucose to spike the level again. And you get this. And what happens with these people and dogs is that when they eat the high carb things, and it just perpetuates the issue. So feeding a real food diet is huge. Feeding a real food diet that's very low in the beans that I don't even feed, and very low in grains is best. Making sure that they get in some format organ meat. Now, it doesn't have to be raw if your dog isn't digestively stable, but making sure you have a real food diet that is protein and fat appropriate for that dog and their diseases. That is what we're talking about here. I understand there's a lot of dogs with disease, so you have to make your adjustments from there, but real food makes a real difference here. The second thing is I'd like for you to see your holistic vet, because the holistic vet has support products and also whole food supplements that give the nutrients that you may not have enough of for that particular pet, and it can help the adrenals function more adequately. Plus, it does synergistic type of responses for the rest of the body, okay? And the herbal types of support involve adaptogens. Now, adaptogens are great. They're like the governor for the adrenals. They keep the adrenals from going too high and keep the adrenals from going too low. And those are awesome. The only thing you have to remember about adaptogens is you have to stop them when you have an infection. Why? Because when you have an infection, your immune system has to initiate. And if you don't have that adrenal squeeze to initiate, your initiation of your immune system won't happen. So no adaptogens when you have infections, okay? So there we have it. We finally finished. I hope this gives you some information. Let me know what you think. Scroll down, leave a message. Bye.